5 Stoic habits that will put you ahead of 99% of people. Ancient wisdom, modern mastery, timeless discipline. Introduction. What if the edge you've been searching for is 2,000 years old? Most people spend their entire lives chasing shortcuts, the fastest diet, the hottest investment, the viral strategy that promises overnight success. And most people end up exactly where they started, frustrated, distracted, and wondering why their life isn't moving forward. But there is a small group of people, throughout all of history, who figured something out. Something quiet, something that doesn't trend on social media but consistently produces extraordinary results. They were called the Stoics. And what they built wasn't a philosophy. It was a system for living at full power. Marcus Aurelius ran the most powerful empire on earth and still found time every morning to write about controlling his own mind. Epictetus was born a slave and became one of the most influential thinkers who ever lived. Seneca advised emperors and wrote letters about the only thing that truly matters: how you spend your time. These weren't monks locked away in temples. They were warriors, statesmen, fathers, and builders who operated under enormous pressure, and thrived. And the habits they practiced are not complicated. They are just deeply uncommon. Today, we're breaking down the 5 Stoic habits that will separate you from the overwhelming majority. Not because these habits are secret, but because most people will hear them, nod their head, and never actually do them. You are going to be different. And if this kind of content speaks to you, the kind that cuts through the noise and gives you something real, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Hit that button right now. More of this is coming, and you don't want to miss it. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. Marcus Aurelius. Stoic Habit 1. Control what you can, release what you cannot. The very first thing the Stoics taught, and the thing that most people spend a lifetime refusing to accept, is this: there are things within your control, and there are things outside of it. And the moment you mix the two up, your peace is gone. Epictetus called this the dichotomy of control. He said, our opinions, our choices, our responses, these are ours. The weather, other people's behavior, the economy, what someone thinks of us, these are not simple concepts. Devastating in its implications. Why this puts you ahead. Think about how much mental energy the average person burns on things they cannot change. They rage at traffic. They obsess over what a coworker said. They scroll through news that fills them with anxiety about events halfway around the world they have zero influence over. That energy is gone, wasted, every single day. The person who practices Stoic discipline does something radical instead. They ask, is this in my control? If yes, they act. If no, they release it, not because they don't care, but because they understand that caring without the ability to act is just suffering dressed up as concern. This single shift, practiced consistently, frees up a staggering amount of cognitive and emotional energy. Energy you can redirect into your work, your relationships, your growth. While others are drained by things they can't change, you are laser focused on the things you can. Start small. Tonight, write down 3 things that stressed you out today. Then mark each one. Is this in my control or not? You will be shocked how many aren't. And you will begin to let them go. That is the beginning of power. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Stoic Habit 2. Practice voluntary discomfort, before life forces it on you. This is the habit that sounds the strangest and produces the most dramatic results. The Stoics deliberately made themselves uncomfortable, not as punishment, as training. They called it ascesis, and it was one of their most powerful tools for building an unbreakable character. Seneca would periodically wear rough clothing, eat the simplest food, and sleep on a hard surface, even though he was wealthy enough to live luxuriously. His reason was precise. Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" The psychology behind the habit. Most people's deepest anxiety isn't about what's happening now, it's about what might happen. What if I lose my job? What if I can't afford my lifestyle? What if things fall apart? The Stoics answered that question not by reassuring themselves, but by living it temporarily and discovering it's survivable. Often, it's even clarifying. When you voluntarily do hard things, cold showers, fasting, waking up early, skipping comfort, you are doing something the majority of people never do. You are desensitizing yourself to discomfort. You are proving to your nervous system that you can handle difficulty. And when real hardship comes, and it always does, you don't collapse. You adapt. Beyond that, voluntary discomfort gives you something irreplaceable: perspective. That morning run you dread becomes nothing compared to a genuine crisis. The meal you skipped for intermittent fasting puts the concept of real hunger in sharp relief. Comfort becomes something you enjoy rather than something you depend on. Choose one discomfort this week. Make it voluntary, make it intentional, and notice how everything else suddenly feels more manageable. Stoic Habit 3. Live as if this moment could be your last, without panic. The Stoics had a practice called memento mori, remember that you will die. Before you scroll past that, understand what they actually meant by it. This was not a morbid obsession. It was a precision tool for eliminating triviality from your life. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, a journal he never intended anyone else to read, reminders that everyone he knew would one day be gone. That he would be gone. Not to make himself sad. To make himself awake. How death sharpens your priorities. When you genuinely reckon with your mortality, something shifts. The petty argument stops feeling worth it. The dream you've been putting off until the right time suddenly feels urgent. The grudge you've been carrying around for years feels absurdly heavy. Memento mori cuts through noise like a blade. Steve Jobs famously asked himself every morning, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do? When the answer was no too many days in a row, he changed something. That is not a coincidence. It's Stoic philosophy in Silicon Valley clothing. The average person lives as though they have endless time. They procrastinate. They tolerate situations that drain them. They avoid the hard conversation, the bold move, the genuine commitment. They will get to it someday. The Stoic lives differently, not in panic or recklessness, but in deliberate urgency. Every day is treated as a gift, not a guarantee. Try this. Each morning, before you pick up your phone, spend 60 seconds asking yourself, if today were my only day, what would actually matter? Then let that answer guide your first hour. Just the first hour. And watch how your entire day changes. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Marcus Aurelius, Stoic Habit 4. Guard your attention like your life depends on it, because it does. If the Stoics were alive today, they would be horrified. Not by the technology, they would adapt to that. They would be horrified by how freely people give away the most valuable thing they own, their attention. Seneca wrote, with almost alarming precision for a man born 2,000 years ago, omnia aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est. Everything is alien to us, time alone is ours. Time, attention. Where your mind goes, your life follows. And most people have handed that steering wheel to an algorithm. The war for your mind. Social media platforms are not designed to make you smarter, calmer, or more focused. They are designed, by some of the most brilliant engineers in the world, to capture your attention and monetize it. Every notification, every infinite scroll, every outrage bait headline is engineered to pull you out of your own life and into a state of distracted consumption. The Stoic response is not to rage against technology. It's to be ruthlessly intentional about where your attention goes. Marcus Aurelius, governing an empire, protected his mornings ferociously. He wrote, reflected, and prepared before the demands of the day could fragment his thinking. He knew that a scattered mind produces scattered results. You are in a battle for your own mental real estate. And the people winning in life, the ones building things, creating things, compounding their skills and relationships, are winning in large part because they have decided that their attention is not for sale. They choose their focus. They protect their deep work. They are present in the moments that matter. Audit your screen time this week. Find the number. Then ask yourself, is this where I want my life to go? Because that is where it's going. Attention is not separate from life. Attention is your life. Stoic Habit 5. Become the observer of your own mind, and stop being its prisoner. The fifth habit is the one that ties all the others together. And it is the most powerful shift a human being can make. The Stoics called it prosoche, self-attention. The ability to watch your own thoughts and emotions the way a scientist watches an experiment. With curiosity, not identification. Most people do not have thoughts. They are their thoughts. A feeling of anger arrives and suddenly they are an angry person. A wave of fear crashes in and they are a fearful person. An impulse appears and they act on it without a moment of reflection. They are completely at the mercy of whatever their nervous system decides to generate next. The gap that changes everything. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is your power. In that space is your freedom. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the Nazi concentration camps and went on to found an entire school of psychology, taught this principle. He learned it in the most extreme conditions imaginable, that no matter what is done to the body, the mind retains the ability to choose its response. The Stoics built daily practices around expanding that space. Journaling, which Marcus Aurelius did every night, is not self-indulgence. It is the act of making your thoughts visible so you can examine them rather than be ruled by them. Meditation, reflection, deliberate pause before responding. These are all tools for the same thing, creating distance between what happens and how you react. When you become the observer of your mind, you stop being its prisoner. You notice the anxious spiral beginning, and you can step out of it. You notice the craving for something destructive, and you can let it pass without acting on it. You notice the emotional reaction building, and you can choose your response instead of just defaulting to it. This is not emotional suppression. The Stoics were not robots. Seneca wept. Marcus Aurelius grieved deeply for those he lost. Feeling is human. Being enslaved by feeling is the problem. The goal is to feel fully and still choose wisely. That gap, that breath, that pause, that moment of observation, is where character is built, and where your life is decided. Start with journaling tonight. Not a diary of events, a diary of thoughts. Write what you felt today and why you think you felt it. Do that for 30 days. The person who looks back at day 1 from day 30 will be someone who knows themselves in a way most people never will. The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. Marcus Aurelius. Closing. The 99% will keep scrolling. You just did something different. Let's bring it all together. 5 habits, ancient roots, timeless power. Control what is yours and release what is not, and watch your anxiety drop while your effectiveness rises. Practice voluntary discomfort, and discover that you are far more capable than comfort ever let you believe. Live with the awareness of your mortality, and suddenly your time becomes sacred. Guard your attention with everything you have, because where your attention goes, your life grows. And become the observer of your own mind, because only when you can see your thoughts clearly can you choose your path deliberately. None of this requires money. None of this requires a particular background, a particular country, or a particular set of circumstances. These habits work in every era because they work on the only thing that has always been in your control, you. The Stoics didn't promise happiness. They promised something far more durable, a character that can navigate any terrain. A mind that doesn't break under pressure. A life that is genuinely, deliberately, authentically yours. The 99% will read this and move on. They'll nod along and then go back to the exact same patterns tomorrow. But you're still here. That means you're different. That means you're serious. So prove it. Start with just one habit. Pick the one that hit hardest. Begin tonight. Not next Monday. Not after the holidays. Tonight. Because the Stoics knew something else, too. Knowing is worthless without action. Wisdom without practice is just decoration. The philosophy was never meant to be admired, it was meant to be lived. And when you start living it, you will understand why these ideas have outlasted every empire, every trend, every civilization that produced them. They work, quietly, powerfully, and without exception. Now go build the version of yourself that operates in that top 1%, not by crushing others, but by becoming someone who is simply too disciplined, too focused, and too self-aware to stay ordinary. Join the community. Subscribe for more wisdom that actually changes you. If this gave you something real, a shift in how you think, even a small one, there is so much more coming. Subscribe to this channel and be the first to receive content that cuts through the noise and gives you tools that last a lifetime. Subscribe now. Hit the bell. Share this with someone who needs it. See you in the next one.